resistance to doing the twin flame inner work on the journey is kind of common to occur. And that is because something specific is happening inside of the twin flame inner work that you are not used to. And that is so different that your ego personality will say no to it. It will say, this is strange. I don't like this. I already see this coming, that something is coming in that will eliminate me. And I'm not sold on this thing. And that is all. Yeah, I understand. Becoming sold on the turnaround of the actual twin flame inner work, according to Divine Mother, can take long because the ego is against it. And this happened to me. In this lifetime, because I also remember other lifetimes at this point, in this lifetime, I have been working with a spiritual teacher for around 10 years from that I was 20 years old. And when that was all in the midst of going on, I realized that all the time what we were doing in this meditative yoga and the conversations that we were having and the meetings and whatnot, that would bring you in a development that did genuinely lead to like to release into your soul space, although it wasn't updated until the degree of twin flames. And I did that now myself. But what I started to realize over the years was that it always felt as though this atmosphere that I came into when we were practicing this was turned around. It was some sort of an upside down atmosphere. It was some sort of, oh, this is the other way around, and I thought it would be, or that I thought it was, or that the world portrays it to be, or that my family would say it is, or etc. You know, what my colleagues or friends would acknowledge that reality is like. And it was always some sort of like, oh, and when you then arrived, things were the other way around. It felt as though there was a significant, meaningful turnaround in your inner world, which you could also sort of feel in your dealing with your energy body, how that was some sort of a turned around version of everything or something. And yeah, that was very much what that was, but it was difficult for me to understand how that then played out in the world or in my life, because even though that is how I experienced it, and that gave me a lot of confidence in that this existed because I experienced it, it also left me with a great question mark above my head, like, but the world doesn't function with this, so how do I live? I still didn't understand how I should live, because I was, of course, very much educated and brought up in the idea and influenced by the idea that to survive in society, you should not turn things around and feel this inner stuff, you know? And everything pointed to not doing that, right? So, and I just couldn't resolve that for myself until later. Then a new decade started for me. And when I was around 30, Divine Mother started to more and more talk to me directly. Or I started to listen to that voice more, or more clearly, or more distinctly, like that I was conscious that I was listening to someone that I would call Divine Mother. Or you could also call her another name. You could also say God or the universe or Mary or Isis. It doesn't really matter. But anyway, she started to have a conversation with me over many years. And we had sort of hard conversations. And she showed me and told me, and through the actions that happened in that atmosphere in this new decade in my life, that, well, first of all, that the turnaround was still here, but also that you could just say it in words. You don't necessarily only, or have that as the only entrance, that you have something like this meditational yoga atmosphere with meetings, but you could also just say it. You could, it's experiential, but the fact that it's experiential, you can also just say, you can just say, okay, so everything that happens in your life, you turn around at night before you go to sleep in your mind. That's one of the phrases how it was said to me at that time by Divine Mother, and by instructions that were given to me by that source. And it was like, wow, you can just say it, you can just write it down in words. And it was actually the same, but it was now worded. And that was very inspirational to me, because I was actually always a person of words in that sense. Maybe that sounded more societal to me at that time. I still wanted to be very much societal, and now that has mellowed out in another way. Although I think it is very societal, I don't try at this point, which is another decade later, I don't try to fit with society anymore per se, right? And like a decade ago, I was still trying to do that. So that was the turnaround that was told by Divine Mother to me. And she gave me exercises that I later developed into the key exercise, okay? And when you look at the key exercise now, you see that there is a turn around in it. You have to turn stuff around, whether you start to turn your emotions and reactions to your twin flame in the world towards a deeper level of feeling your actual deeper heart's feelings in yourself, and then turn that around into that you long for something that seems missing, and then you turn it around even further. It's like you're cranking that turnaround tool or something, like, and then you get into this place where you feel that you already have that what you long for, because you have to somehow already know it, because otherwise you can't long for it, you can't desire it. And then you take on that fact that you must already somehow know it as your own already right now, nevertheless. And that's where you get into your true divine soul creative qualities, however you want to call it. And you start to build there, you start to stack these true meeting points between you and source there on top of each other. And that's how you build yourself up on the true foundational level. And that was version 1 of the key tool that I developed after Divine Mother had shown this turnaround to me, and I translated it to how that coincided with how I was raised with my first spiritual teacher, with the yogic meditational atmosphere and the meeting inside of that, and the working with feeling and energy in it. And then later I also learned that key version 2 is very valid, because it is yet another way of more literally doing what Divine Mother told me, and that is turning everything around. What she told me was turn everything around that happened to you during the day before you go to sleep at night. Turn everything around literally. And that started to play a role, and I started to see that this was another version of doing the same, but more literal, like I'm upset because of this of my twin flame and that of the world, but that's actually like I'm upset because of this of myself and this of myself, right? So that would be then what Divine Mother told me to turn around in your mind before you go to bed every day. And you start to live as though this was the life that God prepared for you, so that you would actually, by turning it around, come into connection with the underlying love of God. When you have turned it around inside yourself, you start to feel the love of God underneath that thing that you have now indicated in yourself that it came from. And that's where you get into connection with the underlying foundational divine love in yourself. And that is why God prepared this life for you like this in the world, in the things that happen, so that you can turn it around and underneath it find this foundational love inside of yourself when you have turned it around. And you should be happy that you are living this life how God intended it for you. That was the story, how it was taught by Divine Mother to me, how you can get into connection with your real life in the love of God. And then that was actually sanctified by my meeting person to person with the Christed Masters now on earth that are here to amplify the twin flame development as well. And I worked with them, and I saw that that all coincided with this key version 2 as well. And that was just wonderful. So that seemed more like the Christ Master attuned kind of version of the same thing. And it all comes down to the magic formula sort of that Divine Mother taught me, and that was that you need to turn things around. And that is the very thing that makes it different and unique, the twin flame inner work. And for me, it took what did I just tell you? I just told you a little bit of the history of the coming into being of this as well. For me, it took 2 decades to work through my resistance of this central idea to have this turn around, because it seems different than society, right? And it seems against what your ego wants, what your personality thought how life should be like. And for me, it took 2 decades of working through the resistance to acknowledge that one should be sold on the turnaround in the twin flame inner work, because it is the inner secret working of it all, and it is here for you to do the actual true twin flame work. And that is crucial. When I finally had worked through my resistance to the twin flame inner work and my resistance to the most central thing that it is about, really, and that is the turnaround that it is about, and I gave it the right interpretation. And I also started to understand that it was valid for the inner sanctum and the outside world too, and living in society and being with other people and being with the twin flame, and that it would need to be valid everywhere at the very same time in the very same way. And yeah, no matter what it tells me about myself, because that is just an invitation to go to the deeper love underneath it. And that is eventually what you want, and what God or Divine Mother wants for you, or the universe wants for you, or what the twin flame wants for you, because the twin flame is a representation of the divine on earth for you, and they want the most loving thing for you. So I took 2 decades to work through my resistance to the central secret of any inner work, to truly work on the level that we need here, and that is the turnaround. And I would not take as long as I did. If I were you, I would simply take it from me You need to do the turnaround. You need to do the actual twin flame inner work, not fantasize something psychological that you think will work because you say so. But do the actual twin flame inner work with the inner work, it's inner, and with the turnaround. And do it on all levels and take all the consequences and stop questioning it and save time. That's my advice for this video. So I hope this helped.